For most of my life, Friday the 13th Part 3 was my favorite of all the Jason Voorhees exploits. It had a wonderful set of characters that genuinely felt like friends. And that Jason look. Boy, oh boy, do I love that Jason look. He's this hulking brute that looks like he could start for the Dallas Cowboys. Then when we finally get to see that grotesque face, what a thing of absolute beauty. Plus, I mean, this is the film where Jason gets his famous hockey mask. So join me on today's Real Slashers as I get into all of Jason's machete-wielding 3D exploits in Friday the 13th Part 3.
He had a knife, and he attacked me with it.
Like most Paramount-era Friday films, Part 3 begins with a recap. Or, well, I guess I should say that they just chopped the final couple minutes off of the film before it and slapped it onto the beginning here, because that's all it feels like. Guess they were really worried about runtime. But for those that skipped out on Part 2, I suppose this gives you a nice reminder of where we left Jason off. We'll just ignore the fact that his appearance changes drastically overnight. So finally, at the 7-minute and 50-second mark, we're treated to some new footage, and we get this great opening scene at a grocery store. I'll save it for slicing up a scene, but it's fantastic. Harry Manfredini returned to score the film, and it's got one awesome disco soundtrack. I mean, just listen to this. From there, we meet our cast of characters. Chris, Debbie, Andy, Shelley, Vera, Chili, and Chuck. There's also Rick once we get to the cabin itself. These are some of the most likable people we've ever gotten in a Friday the 13th film. They actually feel like real human beings, despite some of them just looking like walking stereotypes. And I'm not sure there's a single horror fan out there that didn't relate to Shelley.
Why aren't you down at the lake with everybody else?
Well, they said they were going skinny dipping, and I'm not skinny enough.
Hell, you're going to notice that a lot of the clips I'm using are lines from Shelley, because he's just full of awesome quotes. The group of friends is heading to Chris's cabin for a weekend getaway. While I'm sure you know how this goes, it's surprising where they take it. Chris had trauma when she was younger, and it's implied that she was harassed by some unknown assailant in the woods. I think we know who that is. Whether this was rape or not has been hotly debated, but the actress is adamant that it was not. Still, it gives our final girl a bit more meat to her story. One strange aspect of Part 3 is the inclusion of these bikers. They are essentially just here to cause trouble. They harass Shelley at the convenience store and then find out where they are and steal their gas. I like that it's a believable way to strand them. But then they show just how inept they are as they get picked off one by one. Except for Ali. Ali is the badass amongst all badasses. He seemingly gets off by Jason, only to come back later, save the day, and promptly get finished for his efforts. His fearlessness makes him absolutely iconic. As expected, Jason takes out all of the young adults until there's just Chris left. She puts up quite the fight too, as she's trying to escape from his clutches. And I love how much Jason feels like a creepy weirdo here. He even taunts her, taking his mask down to show her his grotesque face. She's able to seemingly kill Jason, but it wouldn't be Friday the 13th without some weird dream sequence ending. And here is no different. Chris thinks she's won, only to see Jason back up at the house, coming towards her. But then he disappears. Chris is clearly just seeing things. Only for little old Pamela Voorhees to pop out of the water, Friday Part 1 style. She drags her under, only to reveal that this is of course a dream. And Chris is taken into the back of a cop car as she laughs hysterically. She has lost her marbles. So much for a triumphant ending. Jason Voorhees is an absolute icon, and we've covered him several times both on this channel and in this series. So I'm going to focus entirely on the version of Jason we get in Part 3, because this guy is an animal. This hulking brute was played by Richard Brooker, who sadly passed away in 2013. There's a playfulness to Brooker's Jason that I think is lost in many of the films. He's almost like a dog playing with his meal. And Jason sure gets up to no good here, as he tallies up 12 different kills during the runtime. While we're just short of the fabled number 13, we can maybe count Paul during the recap at the beginning if you're wanting to get that kind of idiosyncrasy. And there's some pretty good kills too, with Andy's upside down chop to the groin being a personal favorite. I mean, yikes. Then there's Rick, who gets squeezed so hard his eyeball pops out. The effects leave a bit to be desired, but they're still so much fun. I'd still say that the most brutal kill of them all is poor Debbie. Reminiscent of Kevin Bacon's death in the first film, Jason shoves a machete up through Debbie's chest. But what makes the kill so brutal is the fact that earlier in the movie, they reveal that Debbie is pregnant. Wait, there's our 13th. A little bit morbid, but what the hell.
Hey, look, I'm eating. Huh? Here's a gun. They fly eggs.
There are so many memorable scenes in this film, yet I'm always drawn to the opening. The Steadicam shot as it lowers to the local grocer is always a welcome sight whenever I throw this movie on. But it's the mystery that makes the scene so great. There's a hint of Jason here or there, but they're mostly hiding him in the shadows. While they tend to get away with showing him a ton in the third act, they're smart about keeping him to the shadows here at least. Hell, we even get a full-blown shot of him, but it's so far away that it's hard to even make out what's being seen.
Didn't I feed you enough for supper? The doctor said you have to lose weight now, didn't he?
But what makes the scene so memorable is the inclusion of Harold and Edna Hockett. Edna is such a raging bitch, and Harold is such a doof that it makes for a fun dynamic. I remember vividly waiting for Edna to get what was coming to her, only for poor Harold to get taken out first. Talk about conflicting emotions. Edna goes to investigate. The kills may feel a little random here, but hey, otherwise we wouldn't be seeing another death for almost an hour, so I'll take it.
God damn it, Shirley, why do you always have to be such an asshole?
I beg your pardon. I'm not an asshole. I'm an actor.
Same thing.
Friday the 13th Part 3, released in the United States on August 13th, 1982. Wow, could you really ask for a better Friday the 13th release window than that? Fans clearly agreed because it brought in over $9 million on its opening weekend. It would end its worldwide tally at $36 million. Whether or not this increase in box office was due to the 3D gimmick, or just more people wanting some slasher chaos, Friday Part 3 was a hit. Unsurprisingly, the film holds a 7% rating on Rotten Tomatoes. Wait, I'm sorry, what? I know, this is just a score aggregator, but it really makes you realize how far horror films have come along since then. Because even with its faults, there's no way in hell that this is a 7% movie. I mean, 8 at least. Oddly, there are actually 2 different novelizations of the film out there. One was published in 1982 and written by Michael Avalon. This was released at the same time as the film. Then 6 years later, we received another adaptation written by Simon Hawke. Hawke had written the novelizations for 1, 2, and 6, so I guess they were trying to get a little bit of continuity there. Both are fun collector's items. And while it may not be a collector's item quite yet, the film was included in the incredible Shout Factory Blu-ray set. This includes a 3D version of the movie. Sadly though, this isn't the old school blue and red 3D. We also received an incredible limited edition steelbook for the movie's 40th anniversary. God damn, 40 years, where did the time go? There's just so much to love when it comes to this movie. The cheesy 3D gimmick and all of the lunging at the camera stuff is such a wonderful time capsule. And it's hard not to love the movie where Mr. Voorhees finally starts to look like the Jason that we all know and love. Add some wonderful characters and a cozy vibe, and you've got one of the better Friday the 13th sequels. What do you think of Part 3? Where would you rank it amongst the Friday the 13th films? I would personally put this right near the top, but that's just me. What other movies would you like to see us cover on the show? Let us know in the comments and we'll see you in the next one.
How come you never scream when we have sex?
Give me something to scream about.
What's the matter?
Nothing. I was just practicing.